Hello, guys! Let's pick up the story right where we left off, continuing our journey through this ancient history with a fresh new voice. After this reply, the Lacedaemonians were no closer to finding the burial place than before, though they kept looking for it carefully. At last a man named Lydians, one of the Spartans called Agathorgi, founded. The Agathorgi are citizens who have just finished their time serving among the knights. The 5 oldest of the knights go out every year and are bound during the year after their release to go wherever the state sends them and to work hard in its service. Lydians was one of this group when, partly by good fortune and partly by his own cleverness, he discovered the burial place. Contact between the two states existed just at this time, so he went to Tegea. Happening to go into the workshop of a metalworker, he saw him shaping some iron. As he stood amazed at what he saw, he was noticed by the smith, who left off his work, went up to him, and said, "Certainly then, you Spartan stranger, you would have been wonderfully surprised if you had seen what I have. Since you are amazed, even by the working of iron, I wanted to make myself a well in this room and began to dig it when, what do you think? I came upon a coffin 7 cubits long. I had never believed that men were taller in the old times than they are now, so I opened the coffin. The body inside was of the same length. I measured it and filled up the hole again." Such was the man's story of what he had seen. The other, on thinking the matter over, guessed that this was the body of Orestes, of which the oracle had spoken. He guessed so because he noticed that the smithy had 2 bellows, which he took to be the 2 winds, and the hammer and anvil would do for the stroke and the counterstroke, and the iron that was being worked for the evil lying upon evil. He imagined this might be so because iron had been discovered to the harm of man. Full of these ideas, he hurried back to Sparta and laid the whole matter before his people. Soon after, by a planned scheme, they brought a charge against him and began a legal case. Lydians went off to Tegea and, on his arrival, told the smith of his trouble and suggested renting his room from him. The smith refused for some time, but at last Lydians persuaded him and took up his home in it. Then he opened the grave and, gathering the bones, returned with them to Sparta. From that time forward, whenever the Spartans and the Tegeans tested each other's skill in arms, the Spartans always had a great advantage, and by the time we have now reached, they were masters of most of the Peloponnese. Croesus, told of all these events, sent messengers to Sparta with gifts in their hands, who were to ask the Spartans to enter into an alliance with him. They received strict orders about what they should say, and on their arrival at Sparta spoke as follows: "Croesus, king of the Lydians and of other nations, has sent us to speak this way to you, O Lacedaemonians. The god has told me to make the Greek my friend. I therefore come to you, following the oracle, knowing that you hold the first rank in Greece, and wish to become your friend and ally in all true faith and honesty." Such was the message which Croesus sent by his messengers. The Lacedaemonians, who were aware in advance of the reply given him by the oracle, were full of joy at the coming of the men and at once took the oaths of friendship and alliance. They did this the more readily as they had, earlier, taken on certain duties towards him. They had sent to Sardis on one occasion to buy some gold, meaning to use it on a statue of Apollo, the statue, that is, which remains to this day at Thornax in Laconia, when Croesus, hearing of the matter, gave them as a gift the gold they wanted. This was one reason why the Lacedaemonians were so willing to make the alliance. Another was that Croesus had chosen them for his friends ahead of all the other Greeks. They therefore held themselves ready to come at his call, and not content with doing so, they further had a huge jar made in bronze, covered with figures of animals all round the outside of the rim, and large enough to hold 300 amphorae, which they sent to Croesus as a return for his presents to them. The jar, however, never reached Sardis. Its failure to arrive is explained in 2 quite different ways. The Lacedaemonian story is that when it reached Samos on its way towards Sardis, the Samians, having knowledge of it, put to sea in their warships and took it as their prize. But the Samians say that the Lacedaemonians who had the jar in charge, happening to arrive too late and learning that Sardis had fallen and that Croesus was a prisoner, sold it in their island, and the buyers, who were, they say, private persons, made an offering of it at the shrine of Juno. The sellers were very likely on their return to Sparta to have said that they had been robbed of it by the Samians. Such, then, was the fate of the jar. Meanwhile Croesus, understanding the oracle in a wrong way, led his forces into Cappadocia, fully expecting to defeat Cyrus and destroy the empire of the Persians. While he was still busy making ready for his attack, a Lydian named Sandanis, who had always been seen as a wise man, but who after this got a very great name indeed among his people, came forward and advised the king in these words: You are about, O king, to make war against men who wear leather trousers and have all their other garments of leather, who feed not on what they like but on what they can get from a soil that is poor and unkind, who do not enjoy wine but drink water, who possess no figs nor anything else that is good to eat. If, then, you conquer them, what can you get from them, seeing that they have nothing at all? But if they conquer you, think how much that is precious you will lose. If they once get a taste of our pleasant things, they will keep such hold of them that we shall never be able to make them let go. For my part, I am thankful to the gods that they have not put it into the hearts of the Persians to invade Lydia. Croesus was not convinced by this speech, though it was true enough, for before the conquest of Lydia, the Persians had none of the luxuries or delights of life. The Cappadocians are known to the Greeks by the name of Syrians. Before the rise of the Persian power, they had been under the rule of the Medes, but at the present time they were within the empire of Cyrus, for the line between the Median and the Lydian empires was the river Halys. This stream, which begins in the mountain country of Armenia, runs first through Cilicia. Afterwards, it flows for a while with the Mantiani on the right and the Phrygians on the left. Then, when they are passed, it goes on with the northern course, separating the Cappadocian Syrians from the Paphlagonians, who live on the left bank. This forms the boundary of almost the whole of Lower Asia, from the sea opposite Cyprus to the Euxine Sea. Just there is the narrow part of the peninsula, a journey of 5 days across for an active walker. There were two motives that led Croesus to attack Cappadocia. First, he desired the land, which he wished to add to his own lands. But the chief reason was that he wanted to get revenge on Cyrus for the wrongs of Astyages, and was made sure of himself by the oracle of being able to do so. For Astyages, son of Cyaxares and king of the Medes, who had been removed from power by Cyrus, son of Cambyses, was Croesus's brother by marriage. This marriage had taken place under events which I will now tell. A band of wanderers, who had left their own land because of some trouble, had taken shelter in Media. Cyaxares, son of Phraortes and grandson of Dioses, was at that time king of the country. Seeing them as people asking for help, he began by treating them with kindness, and soon coming to think highly of them, he gave into their care a number of boys, whom they were to teach their language and to instruct in the use of the bow. Time passed, and the Scythians worked hard day after day in hunting and always brought home some game. But at last it happened that one day they took nothing. On their return to Cyaxares with empty hands, that king, who was hot-tempered, as he showed on this occasion, received them very roughly and with insults. Because of this treatment, which they did not think they deserved, the Scythians decided to take one of the boys they had in their care, cut him into pieces, and then dressing the flesh as they were used to dressing that of the wild animals, serve it up to Cyaxares as game. After which they planned to take themselves with all speed to Sardis, to the court of Orestes, the son of Sadeates. The plan was carried out. Cyaxares and his guests ate of the flesh prepared by the Scythians, and they themselves, having done their purpose, fled to Orestes in the form of people asking for help. Afterwards, on the refusal of Orestes to give up the people who had come to him for help when Cyaxares sent to demand them of him, war broke out between the Lydians and the Medes and continued for 5 years with mixed results. In the course of it, the Medes gained many victories over the Lydians, and the Lydians also gained many victories over the Medes. Among their other fights, there was one battle at night. As, however, the balance had not tipped in favor of either nation, another fight took place in the 6th year. In the course of this, just as the battle was growing fierce, day was suddenly changed into night. This event had been predicted by Thales the Milesian, who warned the Ionians of it, setting for it the very year in which it actually took place. The Medes and Lydians, when they saw the change, stopped fighting and were alike eager to have terms of peace agreed on. Sandanis of Cilicia and Nabonidus of Babylon were the persons who worked between the parties, who hurried the taking of the oaths and brought about the exchange of marriage agreements. It was they who advised that Orestes should give his daughter Aranice in marriage to Astyages, the son of Cyaxares, knowing, as they did, that without some sure bond of strong need, there is usually little safety in men's agreements. Oaths are taken by these people in the same way as by the Greeks, except that they make a small flesh wound in their arms, from which each sucks a portion of the other's blood. Thanks for joining us for another epic chapter. The plot is thickening as alliances form and wars loom. If you're enjoying this retelling of ancient political drama, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss what happens next. What do you think will become of Croesus's campaign? Let us know your predictions in the comments below.